The real reason God is trapping souls or not, banned by the church, God between parentheses. What happened before God said, let it be light? A book banned by the Bible reveals what happened before creation, before Genesis, and how nothing in His word is what seems. It exposes the world is actually a prison and that God is the warden trapping souls on earth. Well, if He were a real God, He wouldn't do that. It's because He isn't that He's doing. Because a good mother and father will take good care of their children and then not just have them and while they are young, just let them fend for themselves. They wouldn't do it. Okay? So we leave the children in a kind of deceptive amnesia, remove their memory of their origins from the eons in the cosmos. And I believe that these beings who came from the eons, they too come from the pleroma, and they decided to play game, as I said before. They were too bored, things was going pretty similar, the same boredom. They got tedious and they decided that they wanted to play. And so they lowered themselves, their frequency, and they create their own playground, so to speak, to play as they please. And they went around looking for things. By then, the atoms already was created all everything there is, the planets, the galaxies. For me, they didn't create crap. Now, if you ask me, but why they have the power to distract? At certain point, yes, they can distract things at certain point, but not everything, because everything will regrow again. Because they cannot destroy atoms and molecules and all the quirks. They can't. Alright, and from there, that's the prime matter where everything is taken from. Everything derives from there, and it's from there where things are created, how they created things. But to me, the stellar bodies, the astral bodies, all those things were created by the cosmos, inclusive this universe, inclusive the Milky Way and the solar system. What they did was, when they come down, they decided to explore. So they went to, let's say, Andromeda, they went to Pleiades, they went to Lyra, they went to Orion, they went to Sirius, everywhere. Earth. Long time ago was Tiamat. So what they did, like all invaders, what they did, they changed things inside out. They tried to destroy all the original to create what? The replica. So as to own up. So they will say, this is mine, and I am the Lord, and I am the God in here from now on. But it doesn't matter, it doesn't mean that once they came here first, didn't have there wasn't anything around. There weren't anything around. Yes, there were. There were, all right. There were already live striving here on Earth, for example. What they did was to modify everything. Okay, they modify everything. So yes, they are, like say, they are the black sheep of the eons. They are the black sheep, and they decide to be the kings of the block, the black sheep of the family of the eons, and they just come down and start to invest in things, invest, taking over, etc. And that's what we see now today. So let's see this guy's narrative here, his statement. reason for the war in heaven, that Jesus didn't come here to save us. Jesus didn't come down to save from sin, but to expose the greatest secret of all time. You see that previously they say that Jesus was the Redeemer. Some school of thought claims that Jesus is the Redeemer. So there's many Jesus depending on how you create it. It's all about archetype, how the human mind creates. Okay? So they expose the great secrets of all time, and the secrets about your power, a power that's so great, that's so great that actually terrify the ones that pretending to be God on the origin of the world. It's an ancient Gnostic text. It is so controversial that the church buried it for centuries, and no wonder this text claims that the whole Genesis story is basically propaganda, fake news. Truth about what? Let the guy talk.
Really are. What if the biggest conspiracy of all time was the Bible itself? See, this forbidden text is a coded guide to understanding how you can reclaim your divine nature right now. Sound crazy? Well, it gets crazier. Now, I'm going to warn.
Yeah, we can claim, but depend on how elevated you are. We can just show you the way, but we cannot force you and impose upon anybody here. So whoever want to simmer their own crap, let them simmer. We just offer the remedy. Don't want to take simmer your own crap. That's how I view things. I do this kind of thing because I'm forced to. If I don't do, I'll get sick and terrible things will happen to me. That's how these beings, they impose on us. They force us to do things, and if we don't do, we are in trouble. So now some of the creators get crazy now. I'm going
warn
to
you, the story gets dark, and I mean really dark. We're talking about a god who traps humans and then rigs the game so that you never figure out how to escape. It basically
It's corruption, isn't it? Corruption. And why? Because there are those who feeds them. If nobody would feed them, they wouldn't do that. But their lineage, their minions here on earth, some of them who are not even good character beings, will keep on feeding them.
makes you wonder if Saw was inspired by the Old Testament. But here's the good news, it's not all doom and gloom, because in this story is the key to liberation, a way to wake up from the nightmare and reclaim your divinity. On the Origin of the World is a text that was discovered in 1945, buried near the tombs of Egypt, and it dates back to somewhere around.
Everybody carries the fire of the atoms, the atomic fire, you see? The Atimus in Greek means the breath. If I don't make a mistake. Atomus, the atmosphere or breath.
The 3rd century CE, and it begins by
even lungs. No, lungs
telling
is
the
plural.
reader that most people believe nothing existed before chaos and darkness. The text says, everybody, gods of the world and mankind, says that nothing existed prior to chaos.
Existed, but it was like abstract. There was no emotion. So these beings, they lower themselves to create chaos, to create something different from the modern. Because they were tedious, they were bored. And there was one of them who wanted to become a god, a self-proclaimed god. And what he did was to create a twisted fake universe based on the original of the real one. A replica, he created a replica. Or let's say he invested. He did not create it because the natural word would be nature. He invested in the artificial material matrix, the artificial matrix.
I shall demonstrate that they are all mistaken. Welcome to the Secret History Before Genesis. My name is Morg. I'm an ex-Christian revealing hidden knowledge the church doesn't want you to know. And On the Origin of the World reveals a hidden reality before creation, where all that existed was an eternal realm of pure light. There was no conflict, no darkness, no suffering, just pure divine
Exactly.
harmony.
I already told this from long time ago. And I didn't read any books, any Gnostic book back then, back in the 2014. I knew that this universe was pure light and goodness until you were modified in more bodies based on these beings were how to say were embodied into this physical body, engulfed into this physical body. Altogether, the Vedas believe that it would be 7 bodies. Only 4 is known. 7 of these bodies, only 4 are known. The emotional, the causal, the physical, the mental, which is not the brain, the physical, mental, the emotional, which is another thing, and the spirit. And beside this spirit, which carries all this, which is the luggage, the garbage, the spirits, that the spirit, that the oversoul, he carries all that garbage, which is the physical, the mental, emotional, and the causal body also, which is the emotional body, the fourth body, which is the spirit carries it. Okay. Beside this, you have more, 3 more bodies. Also, this body is not known. One of these are the monadic spirit. Is the consciousness. It's the consciousness. The other 4, the other layers are what? Just the remains and the leftovers of ancestral memories trapped in this present body that we carry right now. Okay? We carry the remnants, the memories of our ancestors. And then we become filled with imprints and layers, and become difficult to navigate all this, to traverse after that. So that means see, não
And
sabe
guess what didn't exist yet? The God of the Bible. He wasn't even around. In this account, the real eternal force, the true God, wasn't a person, wasn't some figure in the clouds, but pure light itself, the source, with the Gnostic.
Okay, why you say all about the Bible? He should just pinpoint the Bible, because not just the Bible who is involved in all this, but all the religions here, because it all associated with this being. This being, you know who he is, right? Whether it be Abrahamic religions or Eastern religion, doesn't matter. It's all the same being, all the same archons. So why don't he point other religion? But he picks and judges only Christianity. Why? That's not fair. Yes, the real God did not exist, or exist, but it's not something that is palpable, that is tangible. This is just the cosmos. This is a consciousness. It's a consciousness. That's where we come from. It's an abstract force or energy. So it doesn't decide anything because it doesn't have any emotion. It doesn't have, as it doesn't have any emotion, it cannot, um, it cannot decide anything. You know, you can do anything because the real God, anything you want to be or do, doesn't matter for it because it doesn't care. And then come the other beings who say, now he touches his body, he says, now I'm gonna be the God, I'm gonna be the guardian of the divine law, blah 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 blah, and a kind of tell others to do what he don't do. And his motto is, do what I say, not what I do. Do you understand? The trademark of the hypocrite, people that I hate. People now, beings or people, doesn't matter.
Gnostics called the One. Now, things start to take a turn here because this perfect realm of light didn't just sit there. It began to emanate rays of its divine light. But get this, these rays were actually beings called eons, and each of these eons reflected different aspects of the source. Now, these eons were infinitely more powerful than any angel or any god. In fact, no angel or biblical god even existed yet. The eons worked together in perfect harmony. But the thing is, there's always a shadow waiting to come out. And now, my friends, welcome to the beginning of this cosmic drama. So enter Sophia. Now, her name means wisdom, and Sophia was one of the eons, and she was pretty badass. She was a powerhouse of creation, but unlike the other eons, Sophia was different. She didn't want to play by the rules. And what I mean by that is that in this perfect realm, all the eons created in pairs. They maintained perfect balance. And Sophia, well, she wanted to create something on her own. Well, this is where
I believe they were androgynous. They are genderless because they ever come to me, they say they are genderless. They are not, they are colorless and genderless, right? And they doesn't have a definitive form. So people don't understand, then they create their own archetype. This one that are female pursue a male. It's just a being. It's just a way to say that somewhere along the way, some being decided to split itself into several pieces in atoms and then start to co-create. Okay, by then I already had this other universe, and this universe here were already created by the atoms, and not by this God. What they did was they explored, and then they invaded, and then they decided to invest and manipulated the beings who were already in the places where they invaded, be it Andromeda, be it the constellation like Orion, Sirius, Vega, and many others.
everything falls apart, because she acted in a way that was imbalanced. And so what she created wasn't harmonious like the others. No, this wasn't a shining light or beautiful idea. What she created was shadow, a malformed, chaotic force. And this was kind of like a divine glitch in the matrix.
No, this is just a analogy, this metaphor. That's why this is don't understand, We need someone really out of the ordinary to break into pieces and understand. I don't know, can you join together 10 men and they still cannot break it, 10 women and 10 male, and they still don't want to, cannot break, not able to break it. Because something is still, some kind of filter is still on the way in their consciousness. It was not a female, you understand? It was them who decided their own accord to lower themselves and to create the duality and polarity. Because along the way, some were very bored and they want to put theory into practices.
A cosmic mistake that couldn't be undone. But this shadow wasn't just some harmless byproduct. It was a living, breathing force of chaos. It was an anomaly, a being of darkness that couldn't harmonize with the eternal realms of light. Now, for the first time, reality wasn't unified. This shadow introduced conflict, division, imbalance, and a chain reaction that would ripple through everything. But here's the worst part. This shadow, it didn't just sit there, it wanted power. So from this shadow would come the self-proclaimed God of the material.
Yeah, it was all already concisely and detailed, minutiously planned already. It was a plan, a great plan. They descended, they lowered their frequencies. I don't see anybody saying that. Maybe there are, but they keep on the dark. They don't come to expose it on YouTube. Usually they make their own blog and then they expose it.
World, a being that was so arrogant, so envious, and so blinded by its own
Yeah, like someone I know here online.
arrogance that it would dare
Jealous being.
to
There him. This is the shed that lives inside that creature. But this one is all a mythology, okay? This symbolizes what? Oh, a mythology analogy. It's an analogy, a metaphor. Metaphor. It symbolizes darkness, the duality.
declare itself the one true God. And this is where things really take a turn here, because Sophia, the divine being of wisdom, she acts without permission, creates a shadow, and then from that shadow, a being known as...
Without permission, really? I don't think so. Because once that these beings, if they really existed as a self-conscious being, you think they wouldn't have the power to destroy them, to destroy those beings that violated the cosmic law? They did and do have the power, but they didn't care. Why? Because they are knit together. As I always say, they are the same coin, the two sides of a same coin.
Yaldabaoth is born. Now, the Gnostics describe Yaldabaoth as having the body of a dragon.
The belt represents what? The ego of the consciousness of the creation. The arrogancy, the ego, power over, not power with. What they say, violation. This is what it means, violation of law.
The head of a lion
Selfishness,
with eyes that flashed
narcissism.
like lightning bolts. Now, Yaldabaoth isn't totally aware of the realms of light, but he can sense that there's something out there greater than him, and so he gets jealous. He looks around at the void and sees nothing but himself, and so declares, "I am God and there is no other." Now, if this sounds familiar, it should, because that's what God says in the Bible all the time.
Not only the Bible, son. So sorry, not only the Bible.
Sounds to me like someone needs a therapy session. Now, this is where the Gnostics would say that Yaldabaoth goes horribly wrong. Declaring himself the one true God, that was a big mistake. In the Gnostic view, this isn't an act of power, it's sin. Because according to them, we're all divine. We'll get to that in a moment. But every one of us is a fragment of the eternal light. So for one being to say, "I'm the only God, worship me," is essentially the worst sin possible because it denies the divinity of everything else. On The Origin of the World says, "And when he said this, he sinned against all the immortal beings." In other words, congratulations, you're the first one to...
When he says that, I am the only being, it also
the eternal light. So for one being to say, "I'm the only God, worship me," is essentially the worst sin possible because it denies the divinity of everything else. On The Origin of the World says, "And when he said this, he sinned against all."
When the people is so immersed in their own illusion here on earth, here in this world, this matrix, he will say that only him got power, only him are powerful, and that money and material stuff and power is all there is. This themselves is there, these people God, you understand? So this is what also what it means.
All the immortal beings. In other words, congratulations, you're the first one to commit blasphemy. So what does Yaldabaoth do with his newfound delusion of grandeur? Well, he decides to create, and he takes the formless chaos around him, matter without spirit, and shapes it into
heaven and earth. If I didn't see this being there in the garden, I wouldn't believe he exists, but he really exists, but he may be a symbol of something else, but I saw it. the body of a snake, the head of a lion or a dragon.
Earth. But this isn't some grand, benevolent act of creation like how it's described in the Bible. This is a being trying to make a throne for itself. Now, Yaldabaoth doesn't stop at creating heaven. He decides to make some offspring, because every self-proclaimed god needs minions and henchmen, right? And so get this, he names them, it's kind of weird, by the sounds they make as they're born. So when one of them goes E, Yaldabaoth decides, great, your name is Iao. And his second son says Eh, and he gets named Eloi. And the third, he makes a sound like ass. Hey, I didn't write this. So naturally, he's called Astaphios. I mean, you really can't make this up. Now, there was another son whose name was Sabaoth, and he's extremely important, so we'll get back to him in a minute. But altogether, these beings of darkness form what are known as the 7 archons, and they're not exactly the Justice League. Archon literally means ruler, and they're described as androgynous, embodying both masculine and feminine traits. Now, this is a theme that you're going to see a lot in Gnosticism, the unification of opposites. But don't let that fool you into thinking that these are some balanced, enlightened beings. No, these are the architects, the rulers of chaos. So, while these beings are inherently chaotic and destructive, they're also modeled after the divine pattern from the higher realms. It's kind of like someone took a perfect blueprint and made a distorted, glitchy version. They're powerful, sure, but they're not divine. See, On the Origin of the World flips everything on its head. Heaven and earth aren't divine creations, but malformed prisons made by a delusional being. And the angels? Not divine beings, but archons, rulers of chaos. Even Yaldabaoth, this supposed God, is revealed to be blind, arrogant, and totally unaware of the higher realms of light. It's no wonder the church didn't want this narrative floating around. See, the Gnostics weren't just spinning wild tales for the sake of it. These stories are metaphors for the human condition and for the struggles that we face in understanding who we really are. So as we peel back the layers of this story, you're going to see how it's actually transmitting a deep secret about your true self. What is that secret? We'll get to that. But first, what if the real war in heaven wasn't about Lucifer rebelling against God out of pride, but something else entirely? Let's talk about Sabaoth. Now, he's interesting. This is Yaldabaoth's son. So Yaldabaoth, the god of the Bible, just got done creating the heavens and the earth and the angels, or archons, and there's Sabaoth just hanging out in Yaldabaoth's do-it-yourself chaos-fueled universe, but he hears something that changes everything. See, Yaldabaoth is there in the middle of this creation, and he's getting a kick out of all the angels worshiping him. And so what does he do? Well, the usual. He tells him that he's the only God. The text says, and he was honored by all the army of angels. He was delighted and continually boasted, saying to them, "It is I who am God, and there is no other." But guess what happened?
Yeah, it reminds
His
me of
mommy
what I
heard
read
him,
out
and
there.
she was pissed. The text says, when Sophia saw the impiety of the chief ruler, she was filled with anger. She was invisible. She said, "You are mistaken, Samael," that is, blind God. So being called Samael is like being called by your full name when your mom's pissed. She was calling him blind and ignorant. But guess who heard her? Sabaoth. So Sophia is basically like, "Hey kid, your dad's a fraud," and Sabaoth actually gets it. He sees through all the lies and the chaos, and it's kind of like when someone finally realizes that they're in a pyramid scheme or some weird cult. Sabaoth actually praises Sophia. And so in response, Sophia gives him some of the power of the realms of light. How cool is this story? He suddenly becomes illuminated. And the text says that because of this new power, he's now called the Lord of Armies. Now, this is pretty much an act of cosmic mutiny, and this starts a great war in Yaldabaoth's heavens. Now, you'll notice that sounds a lot like the revolt of Lucifer, but unlike the Christian version here, the Lucifer figure is the hero, and God is the villain. See, Sabaoth isn't some prideful, power-hungry bad guy trying to overthrow God. He's more like the rebellious kid who finally realizes, hold on a second, my dad's actually an abusive control freak who lies to everyone. I don't need to stick around for this bullshit. Now, here's where things take an unexpectedly romantic turn. So Sophia doesn't just give Sabaoth divine light and call it a day. She also introduces him to her daughter, Zoe, whose name literally means life. And let's just say Sabaoth falls hard. So together, Sabaoth and Zoe form a cosmic power couple, and she teaches him about the higher realms. With his newfound power and knowledge, Sabaoth creates a mansion that's 7 times better than any of the heavens Yaldabaoth could make. This is like the ultimate moving out of your parents' basement story, and Yaldabaoth is pissed and terrified. His own son, the one he thought he controlled, turned against him, aligned with Sophia and Zoe, and now has a realm that's more incredible than anything he could ever make. But Yaldabaoth is about to strike back. More incredible than anything he could ever make. But Yaldabaoth is about to strike back. How? With death itself. Let me explain. And by the way, if you've made it this far, congrats, you're in deep now. And if you want to see how deep this rabbit hole goes, then like and subscribe, because there's a lot more to check out, and also check out my books in the description of this video before the Archons censor it. So let's set the stage here. Sabaoth, Yaldabaoth's rebellious son, has just peaced out, ditched his dad's chaotic, matter-filled kingdom, and joined Team Sophia in the higher realms of light. He's shining with wisdom, he's got Zoe as his partner, and he's building a realm that puts Yaldabaoth's crappy creation to shame. And Yaldabaoth is not happy. This guy cannot handle rejection. So what does he do? He creates death. Now, do you actually see how cool the metaphor of balance here? His son runs off with Zoe, who is life, so Yaldabaoth creates death. I mean, it's a dick move. He's basically trolling. But you gotta admit, the theme of balance of life and death is really beautiful. But wait, it gets better here, because death, according to the Gnostic text, is an androgynous being, because of course it is. This is Gnosticism, where duality is everywhere. And this androgynous death doesn't just stop at existing, it gets busy. It mixes with its own nature, if you know what I mean, and spawns 7 offspring who are also androgynous. So each of these 7 have both a male and female name. These aren't just any kids though. Meet the worst family ever. The male offspring of death are envy, wrath, weeping, sighing, mourning, lamenting, and groaning. And the female offspring of death are lust, grief, bitterness, cursing, sighing, again, because apparently death needs extra sighing, I don't know, quarrelsomeness, and these are all the archonic forces. These are the spiritual shackles that keep humanity enslaved. But, and this is the beautiful part, Gnosticism also teaches that death isn't the end, it's...
I think all those bad qualities, because not a quality, this is defects that were imbued inside the human, one of the human causal bodies. It has to do with the causal body itself. You see, it was imbued inside the causal body. But it doesn't mean that the original beings here had this defect, carried this defective body. But it was given to them after the invasion of these beings. So all this immorality that is shown here, all these defects, was introduced later on, not before the invasion.
It's just another layer of the illusion. You see, Yaldabaoth wasn't just insecure, he was terrified, and somewhere deep down, even this false god had a suspicion that something greater than him did exist before him, and that haunted him. So what did he decide to do? He decided to test the universe. On The Origin of the World describes this, and Yaldabaoth says, "If anything has existed before me, let it appear so that we may see its light." So what happens? Immediately, a blinding light shines forth from what's called the 8th heaven, piercing through all the layers of reality, cutting through the heavens, and a human form appears within it. A being that's so incredible that Yaldabaoth was shook. This wasn't just any human, this was Adam, Eye of Light. Now let's get one thing straight. When I say Adam, I'm not talking about some guy made out of dirt wandering around with a fig leaf. See, the original Adam wasn't made of flesh, but of pure light.
There's always a replica of something, a photocopy.
Think of him as the perfect human prototype, not a mortal creature, but a luminous, immortal God. Now, what this means is he was the reflection, the blueprint of what humanity was supposed to be before it got trapped in the material world. And what did this divine human do? While Yaldabaoth was busy creating the material world like a bad Minecraft,
Try to see after they hate human because they didn't create the human in the first place. The idiot to go about spreading through religion that they created the human is a bloody idiots.
server,
didn't.
Adam Eye of Light created an entire vast eternal realm. And just to make sure there was no confusion about who had the better design skills, Adam added 6 more eternal realms inside that one, and it says that each one was 7 times better than anything Yaldabaoth had ever made out of his chaos realm. That's right, 7 times better. And Yaldabaoth was pretty mad. At this point, Yaldabaoth's whole I am God thing and no one exists before me is starting to sound like a pretty bad comedy routine. Even his own minions start roasting him. The rulers of chaos, his own guys, the Archons, look at Adam Eye of Light and then turn to Yaldabaoth and they laugh. The text says, the authorities saw him and laughed at the prime parent because he had lied when he said, it is I who am God and no one existed before me. They even go so far to say, is this not the God who ruined our work? Now notice how even the Archons here are acknowledging that this human of light is a god. Yaldabaoth tried to save what little dignity he had left, so he came up with a plan. If he couldn't get rid of Adam, he was going to try and do the next best thing he could think of, contain him. So this is what Yaldabaoth said to the Archons. He answered and said, yes, if you do not want him to be able to ruin our work, come, let us create a man out of earth. No longer will he ruin our work. Rather, we shall make those who are born out of the light our servants for all the duration of this eternal realm. Basically, he was saying, oh crap, this guy's more powerful. Let's try and trap him before he ruins everything. And so the Archons tried to make their own version of Adam, but what happens when a fake god tries to copy the real thing? Well, they didn't have any idea what they were doing. They're beings of death and destruction, not life. So they completely misunderstand the assignment because the human that they try to make is a hollow copy. It's a lifeless, soulless meat suit that just sits there, useless, like an unplugged robot. And when the Archons saw that their creation was lifeless, they left it, abandoned it, like a broken toy. Now for 40 days, it just sat there, soulless, unmoving, because they had no idea how to give it real life. But Sophia did. In fact, Sophia had a plan. See, before the Archons even made the physical body of Adam, Sophia let a drop of her light fall, and it became a human of light. And guess what this human's name was? Eve. But get this, her name is Eve of Life. And it's actually Sophia's daughter, Zoe, in the form of a human of light. I know, it's a little confusing, right? So let's get this straight real quick. There's Sophia, and she's the one who accidentally gave birth to the chaotic shadow realm. There's Zoe, who is Sophia's daughter and the partner of Sabaoth. And then there's Eve of Life, who is Zoe in the form of a human of light. So why is all this even important? Well, what if Eve was never meant to obey, but to create? Remember, the physical body of Adam is just laying there lifeless. So Sophia sends her daughter, Eve of Life, to give life to Adam. And that's exactly what she does. Yeah, so according to On the Origin of the World, Eve wasn't made from Adam's rib. Eve was a goddess of life, and she's the one who gave life to Adam. The text says, Adam, having arisen, suddenly opened his eyes. When he saw Eve, he said, you shall be called mother of the living, for it is you who have given me life. But there was a consequence to this. See, the true human, the divine spark, was now trapped in matter. And just like that, Yaldabaoth's scheme was complete. By creating a physical...
So Yaldabaoth was not the only, the entire one to blame for all this. His mother was the one. If this is really true, then the mother was the one to blame for. Go ahead, implement this species here. And you see that when the son took over, he twisted all around and asked his this henchman here, his minion here on earth, to twist all the text around, claim that actually was the human who came from a man's ribs. When a woman has more ribs than a man. Do you know that? Going back to your biology classes. A woman has around, I think, 4 to 2 extra more ribs bone than a male. So how come he gives to her? Or maybe because he gave to her, I don't know. Or it was something twisted, another version of a human, I don't know. Maybe it was another version of a human. That's why he was given one of his ribs to the woman. Okay? But actually it was the opposite, because many things everything told here is the inverse. Nothing is as we see it.
Body, he created a system to